In this episode of Net Lease TV, Coronavirus 1 year later, Chris interviews Carly Iacono, CBRE, George Pino, Commercial Brokers International, Michael Lynn, Progressive, Dan on Top Lewkowicz, Encore, Dino Champagne, Asset Preservation, Evan Lyons, Encore, and I'm Chris Marabella, the model.
I love Net Lease TV!
I want Net Lease TV!
I want my Net Lease TV!
Hey, this is Chris Marabella with Net Lease TV. 1 year later, it's March 4th, 2021. I've got the all-star Net Lease group here, and we're going to go, before we go into the interview, I just wanted to cover a couple economic statistics. 10-year Treasury hit 147. It's down a little bit from last week at 160. Federal funds rate still 0.25%. Dow's down a big 448 right now. I don't know if you guys saw the stock market's down to 30,821. As you guys all may know, the Dow hit a low in March 23rd, 2020, 18,591. So we're up pretty significantly. Biden's still trying to get the stimulus package passed with the Senate, the $1.9 trillion. A $1,400 check will go out to everybody. They want to give $350 billion to state and local government. Additional funds to vaccine distribution, and expand the child tax credit. But the Republicans are not really going along with it from what I read in the Wall Street Journal. But we think this will really spur consumer confidence, net lease sales once this passes, and Federal Reserve's on board to keep rates down by buying the 10-year Treasury, Operation Twist. Anyway, so let's start the panel. First question, what are the uses that you guys are seeing that are benefiting from the coronavirus 1 year later? We'll start out with Carly Iacono.
Hi, Chris. Good to see you again. Thanks for putting this together. Thanks for all my other co-panelists. Nice to see everybody today. So I think the biggest takeaway for me in the last year was things are not nearly as bad as we thought they might be in the net lease market. Actually, it was a really pretty good year. I almost feel bad saying that, but velocity was good. There's a lot of tenants that are still trading at, in some cases, even more aggressive cap rates. And as an industry, we became this beacon for safe investing, for stability, which is what was so very much needed at a time of market volatility. So we quickly pivoted from experiential to essential in our buzzwords, and everything with a drive-through flew off the shelves. Drugstores got a nice boost, but what's interesting is there were really tenants that did well in every sector. But to answer your question succinctly, I would say convenience did amazing. Anything with a drive-through, and then the drugstore category, all three really did well.
And what do you attribute, real quick, and then we're going to jump to Evan Lyons. What do you attribute the fast foods doing so well with the drive-throughs? Because I think there was a little bit of a panic in March of 2020. What really brought them through?
So two things. One, they were able to meet their consumer in the market the way that worked with a pandemic. So it was, you couldn't go out to eat, but you can drive through and pick up food. So it became a small luxury for people and an easy way to get out of their house. Also, fast food is one of those categories that seems to do well when there's a recession, when things are good. It's just, people love it, but most of the world at all times. So I think it was just the nature of the drive-through made it very accessible, and then the category is kind of immune to how the economy is doing anyway.
Carly, could have it been a good substitute to sit-down restaurants? The Denny's, the various sit-down restaurants, did the QSRs benefit from them not being able to have customers in the location?
It probably didn't hurt. Denny's was down, I want to say it was in 45%. I just read that stat yesterday, maybe even more, 50% in their sales. So a lot of those fast casual brands were hurting. Some of them, like Denny's, weren't doing great before the pandemic though. So I don't know, it wasn't a huge surprise, but I'm sure that they did get a nice boost, the fast food did, from the lack of other options.
Awesome. Evan Lyons, what's your take on the best uses right now.
I mean, Carly nailed it, but I will stay on the topic of fast food, and I'll touch on another. But I mean, fast food primarily, as you mentioned, Chris, had a misstep, let's say, in a bit of panic in March and April. But by August, much like a lot of the industries across Net Lease, the essential industries, sales were up year over year by, say, 20%. I did send you a graphic.
We're going to put that up.
It's a good, I mean, it's just, I like it because it's a good indicator. It just shows people really quickly that, as Carly mentioned, last year was not all bad for certain industries. But, with fast food, they launched an onslaught of ground up new location designs to embrace those habits that were permanently changed by the pandemic. You had really, I would say, a decade worth of innovation that was already in the works, already talked about, ghost kitchens, smaller footprint dining rooms, things like that ramped up and launched inside of 10 months. I mean, and some of the innovation was very cool. You had like McDonald's tested payment by license plate. So you drive in and it marks your license plate down. Chipotle went fully contactless. So you're walking in, you're not even talking to a single person, and you're picking up your food there. I mean, White Castle went so far as to test burger flipping robots. So pretty.
Okay. Wild. Thanks, Evan. Love to hear your opinion. Mike Lynn.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I do some multi-tenant properties as well, so I just want to chime in from a multi-tenant perspective and how things have changed from last year to this year. Of course, a lot of businesses struggled last year during the pandemic, not being able to open and operate, but we're definitely seeing activity resuming in 2021, both from tenants looking for space as well as landlords looking to potentially get valuations and sell their properties. So I think sales were down at least somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 60% in my area, which is Southern California. But in terms of which tenants are looking to expand at this time, so my company does do leasing and sales, and we're putting a lot of tenants in shopping centers in the medical, dental, insurance space. Also, staffing is a really popular use now, so that's I think a good sign is people are looking to hire more workers. And cell phone and beauty stores, and boba. We're doing a couple of boba restaurants out here too. So those are some of the uses that we're seeing that are coming back to life in 2021.
In Michael Lynn's in the hot Inland Empire, that's hot growth. I was just out there in Rialto, Fontana area, and I'm originally from Riverside, and you thought, Fontana, Redland, or that area was like out in the boondocks. You never thought of it as a growth area. But I was pleasantly surprised when I went out there, the amount of growth on that 210 freeway heading towards Upland. I mean, that's a hot area. There's a lot of housing. Thanks, Mike, for the comment. Is anybody else? George Pino.
Yep. So I just want to actually touch base a little bit, and sorry for kind of stepping in on there with you, Dan, there, because I know you raised your hand earlier too. But I wanted to comment a little bit just on what Carly was saying and Mike was saying, kind of add to it a little bit as well. We do sales throughout the U.S., but we also, with a huge representation towards the buyer side. But we also do a lot of leasing, and just this past year, I mean, we are a full-service brokerage. I can tell you that our leasing, other than QSR, pretty much died for the most part until near the end of the year. When we were looking at the single-tenant net lease game, though, we picked up 3 potential re-tenanting in Southern California with drive-throughs. I have to tell you, there were probably a dozen people on each one. That were going after it, chasing it, wanting a drive-through location. So it was really nice because, and one of these we had actually put on the market a year and a half ago. We had crickets, 0 bites, mainly because Santa Monica location, 700 square feet on a 9,000 square foot lot. Normally not a great drive-through location site, but it's Santa Monica, high traffic. More importantly, moratorium on fast food drive-throughs. Everybody wants one. So we were able to get that in there, and actually some amazing rents for that. So, looking at that, as far as the cap rate compression, Carly, I have definitely seen some cap rate compression, especially along the lines of the industry where people are saying more essential, needs, so to speak, whether it's the dollar stores or the QSRs or the drug stores. The last thing is, one thing that we did notice is that a lot of the buyers are being a lot more particular also about locations. They're very much, in the past, they were a little bit more tenant driven, so to speak, but now, meaning if they're looking at a QSR, so to speak, they don't want one next to a mall. They think that malls, number one, you have potential dark clauses, termination clauses tied to anchors going dark and whatnot. They're concerned about that. So not just that, but also the traffic generators that are from that itself. So, they're being a lot more particular about location than anything else.
George and I did a KFC deal together, and I like that comment, George. And I'm telling my clients the same thing, the attributes that will maximize their financing. I tell them, if there's a Walmart or some big box behind my fast food, try to find out, is it owner occupied or is there a lease there? If there's a lease, when is that lease, up? Is there a potential for that store to go dark? And how's that big box store doing behind the fast food? So I totally agree. That's a great tip you make. Dan on top, Mr. Dan. Any thoughts on this subject, buddy?
Appreciate it. So definitely would echo everything that the experts on the panel have said. We've seen cap rate compressions across many different asset classes, whether it's QSR, dollar stores, pharmacies, industrial. There are, a few things I wanted to discuss. Number one is, I think that Evan had mentioned, and him and I have spoken about this at length before, we've seen a lot of different concepts that were probably going to be rolled out anyway, but they've just kind of received major shot in the arm to be rolled out at a faster rate, whether it's frictionless or contactless experiences, in addition to these smaller formats. I mean, you look at the quick service restaurant sector, most major retailers in that space in 2021 are rolling out smaller footprint stores with, much smaller dining rooms with double or triple drive-throughs. And we're looking at footprints going, for example, Taco Bell from 2,500 square feet to around 1,300 square feet. And I think that's a big win for developers. I think it's going to change the way that, the experience is for sure. And, I'm definitely excited about it. Two specific sectors that we haven't touched on that I think are important to mention are medical office and industrial. So I personally believe that what we may see in the medical space is a proliferation of sale leasebacks. I believe that many major hospital systems are, excuse the pun, but they're bleeding capital. And this last year, where elective surgeries at many hospital systems were put on hold across, the nation, a lot of these hospital systems that own their own real estate, I think, are going to be turning towards the sale leaseback model, which for brokers, I think, is very exciting. That's a kind of a more uncharted territory. I have a pretty big medical office building under contract right now, and I just see that that's a trend that I believe is going to occur. And then the other is in the industrial space. I mean, I come from a background at Amazon, and e-commerce has been a force to be reckoned with for probably a decade, and it's been accelerating. But really, this last year, we've seen the proliferation of e-commerce, and I think that it will only continue. I'm looking at some statistics here right now that came across my desk. There are 31 markets across the country that are seeing 20% plus projected rent growth over the next 5 years. I mean, that is absolutely huge. That's going to have implications in both the leasing side of our business as well as investment sales. And then if you just look at the sheer volume in the industrial space, it's really quite overwhelming. 2020 saw an increase of 27% in terms of the new square footage of leases that were signed for industrial property. And that's huge. So I think that that's an additional sector that was already trending towards major growth, but this, last year has been a major shot in the arm for industrial property as well.
Yep. So
one thing I was just going to say, Prologis is big in industrial. One of my relatives, Walt, was the CEO of Prologis, and they're doing a lot of the industrial buildings. Walt Rakowicz, nice guy, is related to my sister, and he was the CEO of Prologis. Let's transition, guys. Let's talk about Mr. Stalker. You guys know Mr. Stalker? That was the guy that invented the 1031 exchange, if you guys didn't know. His name was
100-year anniversary this year, I believe.
You know, he invented.
FYI.
Dave may know this better than I know it, and maybe you guys know the history. But Stalker invented the 1031 exchange, I think, like in 1920 or something, from my history. Oh, but we're going to get to Evan. Hold on, Evan. So Dino, what are you seeing with the 1031 exchange? Is it alive and kicking right now?
Ironically, it is, and they're talking all about what's going on with the net lease, with the industrial and such. When the coronavirus hit last year and everything was rolling out around this time a year ago, when March turned and they did the lockdown, you know, in our industry, we saw a little pullback initially. If people were, you know, that could get out of contracts were getting out of contracts, not sure what was going to happen at that point. We saw a dip in April, but then May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February has been constant increase in the 1031 volume. Quite surprising, because initially, you know, we thought that, okay, hold on for a rough year. But it's been absolutely amazing to see the amount of volume that's going on through the 1031 industry right now. It took a little while to carve out some time for today to do this, because what we're dealing with is very time sensitive. So we're definitely seeing it, and yes, it is our 100-year anniversary, and we hope to have more years with it. So a lot of activity.
Do you think
we all agree with that, Dino?
Do you think, guys, it could be that people were trying to do their exchange before Biden came in? That's one thing we're all a little bit worried about. Biden's gone sideways on us here with his 1031 exchange. I'll go with Evan. You wanted to make a comment on my question.
Well, yeah, I would say, and I know for a fact Dan was just trying to chime in to say this. The 1031, I think what's really fueling a lot of our inventory right now, when there's really a lack of quality inventory, which I think is helping to drive cap rates down and drive competition. One of the factors, at least. But another is exactly that. People are speaking with their accountants. They're making proactive decisions about disposition or acquisition in reaction to the results of this election, to the looming change in stepped-up basis, 1031 repeal, and so what we're advising a lot of clients is go to any one of these brokers, evaluate the portfolio, have a conversation about hold strategy. Doesn't mean sell everything and get out of real estate, but if there's a deal, if there's an asset within your portfolio that you don't see yourself in 7 years or in 5, rather than have that refinance conversation in 3 years, talk about an exit today. And we're seeing, to me, that's what's really fueling a lot of the inventory for this first quarter in 21.
So that kind of transitions us to the next segment of Net Lease TV. I want to, this is all kind of like theoretical, but I want to hear tangible what the agents here have as far as currently listed inventory, okay, that's available to purchase, as well as some of the deals you've closed in the last 6 to 12 months. I'll start with Carly Iacono.
Thanks, Chris. Actually, yesterday listed my first deal since moving my team over to CBRE, and that was a 2-tenant Petco Walgreens deal, $18 million deal right outside Boston. So look for that next week. We'll be launching beginning of the week. That's exciting. In terms of closings, just closed 7-Eleven in Neptune, New Jersey for a developer, new construction at a 4.8 cap for a 12-year deal. So pretty aggressive cap rate for a short term. closed a CBS zero cash flow deal just a few weeks ago in Kansas for a group of doctors who are looking for specific type of 31 exchange. So we're still seeing a lot of activity. I had a Popeyes close right before that. A lot of activity in those core essential categories. And then on the new listings, some of the tenants that have gotten boosts like Petco from the activity in the pandemic we're seeing more of that inventory market because of their increased sales over the last year.
So Dan on top, what are some of the deals you're working on that you have for sale in your group? Anything that you've closed?
Sure. So recently sold a Tire Kingdom in the Miami area. On Tuesday, I closed a Wendy's property here in Michigan in Grand Ledge. That was an interesting one. Brought it to market at a 5.85 cap. Relatively smaller operator, 56 units. Not the strongest sales. Great deal nonetheless. And we had it under contract within 2 days at a 5.95 cap. So it's 98% of list price. And they closed in just over 40 days. So that was pretty exciting to be part of that. I've got a relatively large medical office building in Iowa that's under contract, about $12 million. I'm very excited to be in that space. And then I have a portfolio of 4 Burger Kings listed in Montana. And I'm going to be bringing a vacant industrial building outside of Chicago to market next week, which I'm excited about because I love the industrial space. And then I've got 2 other pharmacy deals in Ohio and tire stores in Texas that I'm working on.
Awesome. Good job, Dan. Michael Lynn, what do you got going in the Inland Empire that I can finance?
Sure. So recently I closed escrow on a strip center. Actually, this one was a strong performing strip center during COVID, so none of the tenants required any sort of rent relief. And I closed that in January. But really what's been hot is, as we've been talking about, is the single tenant side. So during COVID, sold a couple of Sunrise preschools based in the Arizona area and have 3 more in escrow right now, hopefully closing in the next month or 2. So clearly single tenant is hot. And in terms of what else we're seeing is a lot of land and owner user type property that's still popular because those are not really as much affected by COVID.
Michael Lynn, you got to be going after the Dutch brothers. They're going to be doing a lot of Dutch brothers. They're going to do 2 in Oceanside. There's a lead for you, and 1 in San Diego Pacific Beach. So definitely try to hook up with a developer doing the Dutch brothers. George Pino, what are you up to? What are some of the deals that you've sold, that you've listed?
The last year, let's see here. Raising Cane's, Colorado Springs, a Wendy's, Aubrey, Texas. That was a franchisee deal, but amazing location across the street from a brand new high school, 3,400 students, caddy corner to it, 40,000 cars per day going through, and also demographics were about 140% above average state demographics, both on income and growth. So love that location. 7-Eleven in the Dallas area. Currently have Wendy's in Kansas, a Circle K in Hilton Head Island, which will be closing next week. Wendy's should also be closing in about a week and a half. The Carl's Jr. down in Oceanside should be closing in 2 weeks. That's actually the tenant exercised the ROFR on it, so we're going forward with that, working with them on the SBA deal, which is taking a little bit longer because of PPP stuff. Also have a small single tenant net lease industrial building in Hawthorne that is in escrow right now. Should be closing in the next 2 days. 2 weeks, not 2 days. I was just hopeful thinking. Overall, it's been kind of across the board. A lot of it's been QSR, and a lot of it, surprisingly, is a lot of clients also looking for value add opportunities that reposition the lease and or in the midterm. Midterm being 5 to 10 year time frame, as opposed to some of the shorter terms. Just going under contract right now on one very much like that. Oh goodness gracious, what is that one with John? Actually, it's a 7-Eleven.
Cool. 7-Eleven.
Right next to the University of Delaware. So it's literally walking distance right outside them. So great location, great store sales from my contact over at 7-Eleven, supposedly. So we'll see. But other than that, and that one we're looking at repositioning as well, probably in about 3 years. But that's kind of what we're working on. Looking for if anyone has it. Would love to see a portfolio. I have a client that has $45 million cash coming out in 3 weeks.
That's it. Oh, you're
so
gonna have an buyer with $45 million? Exchange buyer? You're gonna have an exchange buyer with $45 million?
Exchange buyer, $45 million. They're getting 50% of the portfolio that we've sold, and then we're gonna try and. That's all cash. 90% cash. So we'll probably end up. We haven't decided yet. Probably going to end up though doing minor leverage, pushing that up to about 60 to 80 million.
Awesome. So just one thing, George, and to the audience, if you want to see the interview that I did with George on the Carl's Jr. in Oceanside, we actually went to the store. That was a really cool Carl's Jr. in Oceanside. Evan Lyons, what have you been up to? What are some deals you're selling?
Sure.
What are some deals you've sold? Give us some outlook on what you see out there.
Yeah, I mean, every one of these brokers on here can certainly get you some access to good net lease deals, myself included. But I'll talk about the stuff that excites me. Multi-tenant is back. Last year, I think many of us in that multi-tenant space had to pivot, and feel grateful that I made that call for my team, in March. But lenders are lending on multi-tenant deals. Buyers are buying. It's tough to find some of that higher cap value add return product, but I think we're starting to see some of that come online more, and I think that that's going to progress. You're going to see, certain investors that were trying to obtain an aggressive cap rate for a multi-tenant deal in years prior, who are coming out of 2020 going, phew, I survived. All right, fine. They got their wife over their shoulder saying, I told you should have sold it. So we're getting people to get more realistic. So I've got a shopping center in Indianapolis that has a value add component that we're bringing to market. Another in northern Indiana, anchored by Hobby Lobby. We've got a shopping center here in Southeast Michigan with O'Reilly Auto on a 10-year, Family Dollar, Secretary of State, which is our DMV, on a 10-year. That's a good-looking deal. But we're looking for yield, and so for a lot of the clients, I mean, we spent the first half of this talking about cap rate compression. That's not what our buyers want to hear. So we've made a point to chase some products that not everybody's necessarily buying, but is still sound and good and fundamental in real estate. So we've got a couple of ABC Supply Company assets coming on the market between 5 and 10 years remaining. Those are always located by good highways. It's low price per square foot. It taps Dan's desire for industrial. Same with some Gerber Caliber collisions, and then Gerber. Those are both really nice assets to consider as well, and we've got access to those.
That's awesome, Evan. Good job, buddy. That sounds great. I want to applaud all you guys. Woo! Good job. You guys are all doing a great job. I just want to say one other thing for our audience out there. These guys are all-star net lease agents. So if you want to list, if you're a buyer and you're in a 1031, you can reach out to all these guys, and I'll try to put their telephones numbers in the description. But these guys are really good at what they do, as well as Dino Champagne for all your 1031 needs. Dino's been at this, very experienced in 1031 accommodation. For me, I got a client. They've got $10 million in an exchange, and this is normally the way it works for finance. Is they'll come to us before they've completed their down leg, And they, there's kind of a learning curve with a lot of these guys, and they may go for a lesser credit, and then they see what the financing options are with a lesser credit, and the closer they get to their 45th day, they'll get more realistic and maybe go with a slightly lesser cap rate with better credit. And that's what happened with us. They were going to do a KinderCare property, 2 of them, and it was in Nevada. But then when they saw that their financing wasn't as good because the tenant wasn't that strong, they transitioned to do 7-Eleven deals. And the beauty with that is, because we're kind of like Priceline, I would say. We gave them a lot of different options. So the lenders that we were looking at with the KinderCare could lend in Nevada on those uses. They really couldn't lend on C-stores with gas. One was in Texas, one's in Florida. So we had to transition to 2, totally different lenders than we originally started out with. But that was the benefit to this client, that they kind of had a one-stop shop. And so we're trying to get one of the 7-Elevens done by the end of this month, and the other 7-Eleven probably will be the next month. Then I got another 1031 buyer, same kind of deal. We're just pretty much consulting them. And we're telling them, these are kind of the attributes where you're going to get the best financing. We've got a cool email that we send out that gives them the attributes. Because a lot of these guys have never done a 1031 exchange. They don't know what's good or bad with the net lease. And I think it really helps them. But one other deal I'm working on is a CPL deal. And that's for a developer. He's going to build some pharmacies. They're leaseholds. So he would own the building and pay on a ground lease. And right now, we would do like a 20/20 or a 25/25 self-liquidated deal at a 1.0 debt coverage, 3.5% to 4%. So those are kind of the deals that I'm working on. Evan, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that Dino would kill us if we did not talk about how you can help and speak out to protect the 1031. I'm sure there's plenty of places to access this, but one that I've sent out to clients in emails, I've had my family, my in-laws who don't know a damn thing about it, sign up. If you go to 1031taxreform.com, there's a pre-filled out, prefabricated email that'll send a letter to your senator. You can even chime in, make a personal note. I've gotten responses back from our senator almost immediately. Everybody, anybody that does it matters, it counts. So, Chris, you said you'd put a link here or somewhere.
We're going to put a link below this interview. Okay. And what is the name of that association again, Evan?
Well, the one that I've accessed it on was 1031taxreform.com. It was an exchange accommodator that put up a website that made it easy, but maybe Dino has another way.
No, that's actually the one that I would recommend, and just add it to /take-action/. And that's the one that the Federation of Accommodation, our trade group put together, and so we had it for the prior time that they were considering eliminating 1031s, and so it's now just, still going. So definitely it's important to have your voices heard on this particular topic. We as an industry obviously have been following this since the Biden plan came out, and been, talking to the powers that be up in Capitol Hill, the House Ways and Means Committee, the Senate Finance Committee, and then talking mainly to the Democrats, because they're the ones in power right now. And so making sure that they have, they understand the value of a 1031. So it's not just us, it's NAR, all the other food groups, if you will, ADISA, all the trade groups to do with real estate have been very active in trying to educate Washington as to the value of the 1031. So
We see that too in with Urban Land Institute, and even ICSC. People look.
Yes.
Does it hurt the wallet annually, and do we bang our head against the wall a little? Yeah, a little bit. Yes, but a huge amount of that funds go to lobby and advocate for the needs of everybody in our industry. So, it
Yes.
pays part of that stuff.
I just wanted to say, come on, guys, let's step up, America. Be strong, be capitalistic. Let's not turn into a damn communist country. Everybody in this panel should be fighting to make deals. And everybody watching this show, get up and fight for your damn country. Don't be bow down and be communistic. It doesn't work. Go to Cuba, go to Russia, China is kind of a different offshoot of communism, but at the end of the day, all those countries aren't free. Do we want to end up being not free? That's the question. And I think we've got to be strong and we got to be capitalistic, just like, people before us. They didn't, just kind of say, oh, I'm going to give up. We've got to be strong and we got to keep fighting and making deals and be capitalistic. Let's bring our manufacturing back here to America and let's make some stuff. Let's not depend on all these other countries for our stuff. So I just want to go around the panel here and give me your telephone, where people can reach you so we can get that production going and be capitalistic. I'll start with Dino Champagne. How can our audience reach you, Dino?
My office number is 866-857, hold on, 1031. And my email is my first name, Dino, D-I-N-O, and that, obviously you're seeing a visual, so yes, I am a female, at apiexchange.com.
Awesome. George Pino.
I'm an easy one to remember. Just remember it's G-P-I-N-O, kind of like the wine, but no T, at CBI, Charlie Bravo India commercial.com. So CBIcommercial.com. Or they can always give me a call, direct line number 310-943-8536.
Carly Iacono.
My cell phone is 201-600-3237. Email is firstname.lastname@cbre.com. Can also be reached on YouTube at CRE Fast 5, which is my weekly video series, or of course on Instagram, LinkedIn, Anchor, basically anywhere. Just Google my name and you'll have more ways to reach me than you could possibly ever want.
Michael Lynn.
All right, my cell phone is 949-209-9696, and my email address is mike@progressiverep.com. That's progressiverep.com.
Dan the man Lewkowicz.
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. I post content daily. My first name, Dan, last name, Lewkowicz, Lewkowicz. My cell phone is also the best way to reach me. My cell phone number is 248-943-2838. Again, 248-943-2838. Also, email is dlewk@encorereis.com. That's ENCOREREIS.com.
Evan Lyons.
Mobile is always easy. I'm traditional that way. So 248-535-0354. LinkedIn, email Lyons, and you can refer to Dan for the rest.
So I'm Chris Marabella, Marabella Commercial Finance. You can call me on my cell, 760-803-6464. Please like this video. I want you to like it, punch it, whatever. Like this video. I want to hear your comments. For all our panelists, please comment. They're going to look at your comments. They're going to be responding to your comments as far as properties they're selling, cap rates, whatever your questions are. We really want to make this interactive. Guys, eye of the tiger. Let's stimulate this damn economy. And let's show Biden that we're not rolling over. We're strong. We're ready to make deals and be capitalists like our forefathers and turn this damn economy around. And have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching.